time to cut some holes in this baby. Was that supposed to go there?
We're Brad and Jazz, and this is our 2015 long wheelbase Mercedes Sprinter. And this year we will be turning this empty cargo van into an off-grid luxury motorhome. This week we're installing 2 MaxxAir fans, which means we have to cut holes in the roof of our van. Let's get some supplies.
So what I've done right here is just cut the lengths of wood that I need to make the brace for the underside of the MaxxAir fan, and I'm just going to put this on top and make sure it all fits before we screw it all in. So it should slot in there quite nicely. Obviously I've got to screw all these together, but essentially this will be on top of the roof, this will be under. I'm going to cut these down with the contours of the roof, and then this should slot straight up onto it. So you can see number 1 is already in. We did that the other week. I didn't get much footage of that. I was just sort of make sure I got it all right. I went with the side screws on this one, which I wasn't too happy with because it made the frame warp a little bit. So I'm going to go with the pocket screws, and we're actually going to come in on this one here, on the third one. Usually they go up in here, but we're going to have our water closet just here. So it's going to be a bit of a problem because it's going to come out quite a way. So I don't really see how I'm going to be able to sort of frame that in and make it look all nice. So I think if we get it here, we get it nice and central. We're going to have the gas over here anyway, so that'll suck out that, and also it should still suck out some of the air from the water closet as well. So I think we're going to do okay there. What we obviously need to do is make sure that we have this all lined up and centered so that it looks nice and neat when we actually get to this point. So we'll start marking it out on that spot there to make sure that it is lined up nice and central with that other one, and then we should be able to start drilling some holes. Okay, so what I've done here is I've just measured out and marked center on this bay right here, and I need to do 70.5 each way, which is the 35 of the actual MaxxAir fan base. So if I do 35 that 70.5 that way, 70.5 that way, and either side, that should be a square. Then I'll get my square out, make sure it's all lined up, trace it out, bang some holes in it, and then we can start cutting the roof. Okay, Jazz is just going to make us a little template, 35 by 35, so we can just slap it up on the roof, draw around it, and then it should be perfect.
Schmeck.
So what we've got here is a contour gauge. We're going to make sure that we get this contour of the roof right in the wood so that when it binds on, it doesn't pop this down and make a bit of a hole here. So what we're going to do is we're going to line this up against the edge, and then we're just going to push it up, and you can see that it is moving up, and then we just lock it in place, which is up. So now all we need to do is take that to our wood, draw this on our wood, and cut the wood out to the same dimensions so it slots nice and close up there. The bond is good when we actually screw them from the roof. Okay, what we're going to want to do with this is just make sure that we have it all lined up. So you want to measure in the distance of your wood. So the thickness of the wood is 35. So we're just going to start that at 35 mil, which is pretty much where it is now, a little bit. And we want this to actually be 40 millimeters deep from the top. So we're going to measure that out, mark it out, and start it from there, because that way when we put it against the roof, it's going to sit along that 40 millimeter area. And that means when we put our insulation in, which is 30 mil, and then our over insulation, it should all sit flat. So the idea here is we're going to cut this all the way across here and then jigsaw this little lump out. So that's going to sit against the roof where that gap is in the roof. So that'll sit flush on the roof, bump, flush on the roof, so that when we bond it up, it's all going to sit flush against. And then this is going to be the base, which is 40 mil, 40 mil. So when we put everything together, it should all line up beautifully. And we're just going to do the same with this other one here, just in case it is a little bit wider or something. So we'll just start it on the corner. Let it sit in there, get it nice and straight, push it all up. Make sure it's on the corner and lock her in. Let's get cutting, safety first. I definitely wouldn't recommend this setup, but it's the only thing I've got at the moment, so it's what we're going to use. So I've just finished the rough outline of the frame. Essentially that's going to go up into the roof like that. This one's going to come in from the top, sit on the outside like that, and screw into the wood. Obviously you're going to have to cut down the bottom flange so that sits in there properly, but it should work fine, I think.
Time to cut some holes in this baby.
Use this cutout to trace out the size of the vent, and let's hope it's right.
So I've just marked this out with masking tape just to protect the metal on the either side of the cut.
And make sure all of the metal filings and the giant square that's going to drop down doesn't drop onto the van floor by using a garbage bag.
Been on my mind, sick and tired of the 9 to 5 in the city life. Hey darling, we could get out of town, see the beautiful world around, wanna see it now. Pack our bags and get in that car, leave a little note and we'll drive real far. Let's get out.
Not bad for an amateur.
Let's see if the top flange fits in. Once I build that up a little bit, pretty close. So I've just filed off all these little burrs on the edges here. Make sure you get rid of all of this stuff, because if you leave it up here it can rust. So I'm just going to push that all into the hole, and then we'll get started on actually putting the max air fan in. The thing I need to do is rust proof all these edges here so they don't rust with any dampness that gets in, so I'll do that right now.
Yeah, the countryside is so pretty with the wind blowing in your.
Okay, we're just going to wait for that to dry a little bit. We are fighting the sun at the moment, so hopefully that dries and we can get going. Okay, it's almost dry, so I'm going to start on the bits that are dry, and then hopefully by the time I get around to the other bits, all of it will be dry. I've got this buttle tape, and this is going to go around all the edges, bringing this up so it's nice and even. So when I put this down, it sits flat rather than all bumpy and wavy.
Now we only get one life, I wanna make it count, honey. Come on now and take my hand. Hey darling, I love it when it's me and you on the road with a couple of tunes in a car for two.
It's definitely not going to win any picture awards or anything like that, but it's up there. Now we're just going to get the flange on, screw it into the wood, and then get the top piece on. Alright, now we're going to nail this down. Is clamp the wood from the inside there. So I'll set you guys up while I do this.
Get in that car, leave a little note and we'll drive real far. Let's get out.
Okay, now I'm just going to use some silicone just to fill in these little gaps along here, just to make sure that no water gets in. I do have some tape that's going to go all the way around to stop anything getting in. But I just want to do this so there is no gaps along there before I put the tape in, and then I'll just do screw heads as well.
Baby, don't you understand that we only get one life? I wanna make it count, honey. Come on now and take my hand.
Well, she's on. I've siliconed around the edge. We're going to have to let that dry before we put the tape on. So I might just put the hood on for tonight, and then tomorrow we'll come back and tape both this fan and that one up there as well. Okay, we're ready to finish this off. So we've siliconed it up the other night. It's all dried nice and good, which is great. Now we're just going to chuck this Eternal Bond roof seal on, and that's just going to go over all of these bits here so it tidies it all up and doesn't make it look so bad. My silicone job's definitely not pro, but it's going to keep all the water out, and this is just going to make it completely waterproof. They use this on boats and stuff like that to seal up their hatches, so this stuff is going to be great for what we need it to do. So I'll get doing that, and that's pretty much going to wrap up the Max Air fan. First thing I'm going to do before I actually try and stick this down is give this a good clean up just with some Terps. Just make sure that a bond is very tight on there so that it doesn't start lifting. Obviously there's little bits of leftover dirt and grime up here that needs to be removed, so I'll get onto that.
We can look back someday. Baby, don't you understand that we only get one life? I wanna make it count, honey. Come on now and take my hand. Yeah, we only get one life. I wanna make it.
Okay, so that's on there. I'm gonna have to get some more to finish it off. I only bought 2 rolls, so I probably needed 3 to get this done, maybe even 4. So I'll order some more of those because I'm going to double layer it at the front here because that's the big slip, and the same on the back, and I'll just go down the side here as well just to even it all out. But it's definitely looking a lot better.
So that is a wrap on the installation of our 2 Max Air fans from a couple of absolute amateurs.
We did make a couple mistakes along the way. I used the Craig jig on the wrong side of the wood, so we had to recreate another piece of wood. One piece of wood split, so be very careful of that when you're doing it. But otherwise, overall, I think we did quite a good job. The holes aren't too big. There's no gaping, massive errors, so pretty happy with that. Next week, we'll probably either be doing the windows because we have ordered those, but not sure on their lead time, or we'll start doing some floor insulation. So join us next week on Brad and Jazz as we try and convert this van into our dream off-grid motorhome.